Hi everybody. On this episode we're gonna put the radiator together and get that installed on the tractor, and we'll go through some of the processes of fixing some of the ears on the cast panels and straightening out the louvers on the radiator core itself. I had the radiator core at our radiator shop, and they soldered back the top and bottom plates together again and fixed some of the holes. And hopefully it's an old 27 core, so a 27 tube core. One of the first ones they've used back in the early days through 27 most likely. So there's some damage on the front that I have to straighten out some of the louvers on it, and we'll get into that in a second. So I just wanted to walk around the tractor a little bit and show you what's going on. Well, from the last episode, we had it running, but it wanted to quit as I started to drive it a bit. So I took the carburetor back apart and I lowered the float down just a touch, and then I put in a new needle. And it seemed to hold the gas a lot better than the old needle that I had in there. So hopefully it was flooding out, possibly. So maybe that'll solve that problem. Walking around here, here's the radiator parts that have to be put together. I installed the floorboards. I scrounged around in the barn and found some old boards from the fence, cattle fence, that were weathered and pretty much came out pretty nice. They're a good match to the tractor. So yeah, don't throw away all those old boards that are weathered. You might need them. And then I got some gaskets in from Olson Gasket for the covers on top and for the radiator. So I'm all set to put the radiator together. Took the bottom tank apart, want to put some new gaskets in those elbows. And then we're around over here to the radiator core. And I'll set up and start working on this. It's got some deep damage right in there. It doesn't seem like it really affected the tubes too much, but I want to go through here. The tubes really, the veins on here really aren't that bad. I've seen a lot worse. So we'll start working on that and try to straighten those out, try to pull those out of there and see if we can make that look a little better. And like I said, the radiator shop resoldered all the tubes along the top and bottom, and hopefully it will hold. These 27 tube radiator cores are hard to come by in decent shape. They soldered all the way around here too. The flange on the outside was starting to crack. So I guess I'm gonna put it together and see how badly it leaks. As I get ready to prepare the parts for the radiator, I wanted to point out a few things. This is a 26 radiator side that I want to fix. It broke off the ear there. And this is 27 and later. And you can feel by the weight, this one's almost twice as heavy. And if you measure the flanges, that's a little over 3/8 of an inch, and this is almost 5/16. So it's almost an 1/8 inch difference, and you can just tell that this is a very light side compared to this one, even though it still has the wide relief in here. It's basically the same side, and then it's got the gussets in here, those triangle gussets, and they both have that also. So in all aspects it's the same side, except this is a lot heavier. And so this one's probably for a later tractor, so I want to fix these up. I worked on this one and fixed one of the ears here. I just have to grind off and smooth that up, but on the back side I left it so it was pretty pretty much original looking. I just have to knock some of this slag off. But I'll show you what I do to prepare to put on one of those ears. Another good way you can tell that it's an early radiator side is if the ears are broke off, because they were that's why they beefed them up. And so if you got radiator sides that have pieces broken off of them for no other reason that probably it's swelled up in here at where the core fits in, and the rust swelled it up, and then it'll break those ears off with the rust in there. The later radiator sides are probably built heavy enough to where they won't break with that stress on them. But anyway, I've got this V'd out, and I've got this cleaned up here with the wire wheel, and I'm going to put that in there and jig it up here. Takes a little bit of get it just right. Try to get it as close as you can get it to where it's supposed to be. So I got it jigged up with the V towards me. I'll just fill that up. Heat up the big part first, and then come over and heat up the ear that's broken off. You want to start seeing the metal get a little red. You don't want to go far enough to where you start melting the cast. And you want to just melt that right down in there and let it flow right down in there. Fill that groove clear up. You don't have to really overfill it too much. If you grind off just a little bit of excess on there, that's plenty. And even if you don't grind it off, if you don't fill it up enough to have to grind it, it's probably fine. Try to square it off there best you can. It's pretty good. Now I'll let that cool and then grind it off, and it'll be ready to work on or put together. These are probably 26s, late 25s, and 26 radiator sides. There was a short period of time in 25 when they didn't have this triangle gusset in there, probably from a third of the way through 25 until the later end of 25. Didn't have that square gusset or that triangle gusset. And then of course the early 25s and 24s had the part number on the shroud. So those are some of the differences. Now we got to fix the top tank. I got a notch out of that. I sandblasted the matting surface for the gasket, and this little piece I might have to grind that a little bit more to get that in there. Grind that out just a touch right there and try to fit that in there, so I'll be right back. I worked on it quite a while. Finally got it pretty well lined up to where I want to be, so I'm gonna melt some brass in there. See if it'll hold together while I do that. That worked out pretty good. I think I got everything soldered in there, or brazed in there in good shape. I'll just have to surface that with the angle grinder, and I think I'll be ready to put together. So straighten out these louvers or vanes on the radiator. You need some special tools like a little needle nose pliers to get down in there and pull those louvers out. one thing on these early cores is that they brought that vane out past the tube, and then they bent it over and folded it under to give, I suppose, some more strength to the edge of that louver. So, uh, like right here, that fold has been pulled out. So I'm going to have to work to unfold it and then fold it back under the way it was supposed to be. And that's going to prove to be time consuming. So it's not a fast process to get those louvers to all look nice. But when you're all done, it looks really good. You just kind of have to slowly work them. And then when I get them kind of halfway straight, I found that this vice grips with this wide pad, you can stick that long ways in there and straighten those out going side to side. Kind of run it down in there and really no trick to it. It's just a lot of painstaking effort to get those louvers straightened out. And then you come up to one that folded edge has a little problem, so you have to work that back out. Get that folded back underneath there. I know there's some cores that this probably wouldn't fit in between there, but I have done other D radiators and I've done an A radiator, and it seemed to fit in those. I know some of the newer cores, those fins are a lot closer together, so you probably can't get in there. There. See, you can do a pretty good job of straightening those out. Now we'll go up in the here where it's a little bit damaged more. There's a fin that's completely gone right in there, but there's not much you can do at that. And then here's another one that's the fold has been pulled out. See, I'm trying to pull that fold out, and now I'm going to push it back down underneath. Just kind of do it slowly, back and forth. Probably want to start with the ones on that are folded over last. Work one layer at a time. I guess it's kind of like plastic surgery. Oh, put two together there. Okay, so you can see it's kind of coming out of that. You just have to keep working with it. I think that's the worst spot. There's another spot there, but I'm going to keep working on it till I get it all across all of it and get them all lined up. We'll move on to fixing the radiator casting sides next. There's a couple of ears broke off of the top tank and of the side pieces, so I'll be brazing those back on. So we'll set up to do that. Well, I'm ready to start assembling the radiator. I've worked on the fins of the core and got those pretty well straightened out on both sides. It probably took me 2 hours working on it, but it turned out pretty good. So Now I'm ready to start assembling it. I bought these cork gaskets from Olson Gaskets out in Oregon. Uh, the ones I used before were a lot thinner, probably half as thick as this. This is probably an eighth of an inch thick, and I'm not sure I'm going to like that, but I'm going to try it. I don't think there's any reason to put any sealer on it because there's plenty of gasket there. And I also want to see if the core leaks. It might be that I'll have to take it all back apart anyways if it leaks real bad. So um, I'm just going to put it together without any sealer, start getting it lined up, and start putting in the bolts. I think I'll start with those and then I'll insert the sides. I put all the heads on the top and probably need to get all the bolts in all over before you start tightening them up. Now the radiator sides, I've ground these off flush, and there's very little brass on the outside, so it kind of covers up a lot of it. But you can put that bracket up on the top side underneath. And that's what I think I'll do to hide it even more. Still see a little bit of the crack on the bottom side, but we'll put that up underneath. And when you go through cast on both sides, it takes just a little bit longer bolt. Once I get all the bolts in, I'll start going around and tightening everything up, kind of a little bit at a time on everything. And probably with those thick gaskets, I'm not going to really over tighten them too much. So I've got the top tank on. This gasket, I think as you tighten it up, you want to kind of push it back towards the inside so the least amount of the gasket will show. I'll get a few more bolts and then I'll start tightening everything up, and then we'll be ready to set it on the tractor. I'm ready to put the radiator on. I've got the gaskets with sealer on it all on, and so I just have to set it over the top and line up the bolts and get them started. I've got the radiator all bolted together, ready to go on right here, and I've got the gasket on here and down here on the lower pipes, and I've got sealer on them, and I got the radiator on a crane, and now I'm just going to slide it over there and see if I can get it hooked up without destroying the gaskets. Looks like I can get those top bolts started. And I'll let it down a little bit, see if it'll slide in there. Now that I got a bolt in the lower one, I'm going to lift it back up and see if I can push that gasket back in there on the top. Trying to get that gasket lined up on top there. I think I'm pretty close. I'll let it down and see where it ends up. Now I'll tighten up the lower elbows, snug them a little bit. Okay, I think I better loosen this up one more time. Just make sure it can align itself. Like that's about where it wants to be. It's pretty solid. Loosen these up a little bit. See if they want to slide at all. And I think it's ready to be tightened up. I think that completes that. I think I will push it outside and put water in it and see how badly it leaks.